So recently it made news that Obama would be getting paid $400,000 to have a speech to a healthcare conference organized by Wall Street firm Cantor Fitzgerald. Now, this news doesn't really come as a lot of surprise to people that have followed Obama's legacy over the past 8 years. Someone who campaigned on change and being progressive and ultimately capitulated to many Republican positions. And it seems this news has also bothered Elizabeth Warren as well. So this is what Elizabeth Warren had to say about Obama's $400,000 speech when she was on a radio show on SiriusXM called Alter Family Politics.
Senator Warren, what do you think about President Obama accepting $400,000 from Wall Street?
Well, I was troubled by that. One of the things I talk about in the book is the influence of money. I describe it as a snake that slithers through Washington, and that it shows up in so many different ways here in Washington. People understand that the money that goes into campaign contributions, and when I say understand, I don't mean they think it's okay, but at least people see it. The money that goes into hiring lobbyists, but it's also the money that goes into bought and paid for experts, the money that goes into think tanks that have these shadowy funders, and the think tanks always come up with the things the shadowy funders want them to come up with. Even advertising, how I talk about the studies that show that when an industry takes out ads, it changes news coverage. I even talk about the United States Supreme Court and how much more pro-corporate it is becoming because of money that's being spent in Washington. So, the influence of dollars on this place is what scares me. I think it ultimately threatens democracy. And one of the reasons I feel so urgent when I wrote this book is we have to think about what the tools are to fight back against it. And yeah, we go out and we raise money as best we can, but it's a money versus money war. Believe me, the rich will always win that one. So, what I'm pushing for, and what I keep talking about in this book, is the rich and powerful. They got money and they got power. That's the definition. But there's more of us than there is of them, and we got to use our voices and our votes and fight back.
So what Elizabeth Warren says here is exactly correct. Money has a massive impact on politics, and I do disagree with her slightly in terms of when she says money versus money, the rich will always win. Well, Bernie Sanders actually raised more money than Hillary Clinton did in the primaries. So that isn't always the case when you have, as long as you have a nationwide message and you're on a nationwide scale. So when it comes to state politics, local politics, absolutely, money will almost always win in that case. But when it comes to a national election, that isn't always the case. As long as you still have money in terms of individual donations, and you have a message that resonates with enough people to be able to combat the money that's coming from the rich. So that's what gives me hope in terms of a 2020 election. So before hopefully one day money will actually be taken out of politics, before that happens, it's still possible to elect people who are not bought by money. And Bernie Sanders proved that. Well, he proved that in the sense that it could happen if you win the primaries. So while Elizabeth Warren is bothered by the fact that Obama is giving this $400K speech, an Obama spokesperson, Eric Schultz, actually pushed back against this idea. So he's arguing that it didn't influence Obama at all. This is what he said. With regard to this or any speech involving Wall Street sponsors, I just point out that in 2008, Barack Obama raised more money from Wall Street than any candidate in history, which, let me just stop, that is an issue. But anyways, he goes on. And still went on to successfully pass and implement the toughest reforms on Wall Street since FDR. Bullshit. That's complete bullshit. So the financial sector, Wall Street, completely destroyed the economy. Knowingly destroyed the economy for their own greed. And nobody was prosecuted. So there's a great article in HuffPost from Zach Carter, who breaks down that Obama accepting this money is a problem, and it's not a surprise that he's doing it. Obama refused to prosecute the rampant fraud behind the 2008 Wall Street collapse. Despite inking multi-billion-dollar settlement after multi-billion-dollar settlement with major firms over misconduct, ranging from foreclosure fraud to rigging energy markets to tax evasion, in some cases big banks even pleaded guilty to felonies. But Obama's Justice Department allowed actual human bankers to ride into the sunset. Early in his presidency, Obama vowed to spend up to $100 billion to help struggling families avert foreclosure. Instead, the administration converted the relief plan into a slush fund for big banks, as top traders at bailed out firms were allowed to collect six-figure bonuses on the taxpayer's dime. So Carter completely destroys the idea that Obama was hard on Wall Street. But I thought, you know what? Presidents, once they're out of office, how are they going to make money? So before I even looked this up, I thought, you know what? Once you're out of office, you need to make a living still, right? So giving speeches, writing books, that's going to be your primary source of income. Well, at the end of the article, Carter even refutes that point. So he says, he and his wife, former First Lady Michelle Obama, reportedly received $65 million from Penguin Random House for their memoirs. He's an excellent writer who has already written 2 best-selling books, and he'll receive a handsome $200,000 pension from the federal government every year for the rest of his life. So Obama doesn't need the money. $65 million for writing books and $200,000 a year pension. Now, the question is, why give this speech? And honestly, I don't have an answer for that. $400,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money when you're going to be making $65 million and getting $200,000 a year. But you know what? It's the same kind of illness that affects all these greedy people. No matter how much you have, you just keep wanting more and more. More power, more money. That's what drives them.